Thank you, Kun, for that very kind introduction. Friends and colleagues, following that wonderful presentation by the young people in Ireland, I'm reminded when things around us look so bad that the sadness and the pessimism that comes from all the bad things happening around the world and our analysis can always be somewhat compensated and overcome by the optimism of doing something to address the problem. So I want to, from the bottom of my heart, express my gratitude and admiration for all the young people and all the teachers that have come together to say to the world that you are not willing to sit on the sidelines and watch your children and their children's future go up in smokes, that you're prepared to make a difference. So I want to start by saying a very big thank you. Now, let us ask ourselves, why do we have a climate crisis? And I want to suggest to you that we have a climate crisis because we have an economic system that only works for a handful of people and is broken and needs to be changed. We have an energy system where we are dependent on dirty energy, oil, coal, gas, and other dirty energies, instead of being driven by clean, green, renewable energy. So our energy system is broken. Our transport system is broken in the sense that we don't invest as much as we should in public transport, and most of the private transport is heavy polluting. We have a broken food system. So when we talk about how the food system impacts on climate, many parts of the Amazon, for example, millions of hectares have been destroyed to grow soya beans or for growing cattle and so on. So we need to look at the climate crisis as an interconnected crisis. And if we're going to address the climate crisis, we must start thinking about what kind of economic system we want, what kind of energy system we want, what kind of food system we want, and so on. And the sad truth is, people of my generation have run out of fresh ideas. We continue to look for solutions in the past, and we do not have enough and a fresh sense of perspective that you as young people have. You need to recognize that your role is not only to do projects in your community, but your role is also to start dreaming about what kind of society that we want to build for the future. And please, when adults say to you that young people are the leaders of tomorrow, please resist that, because if you wait for tomorrow, there might not be a tomorrow for you to take leadership in. So what is the responsibilities then of young people, and how can young people engage in direct involvement in trying to not save the planet, but save humanity? The good news is the planet does not need saving. If we continue on this way, what will happen is we warm the planet up to a point where we cannot exist here. We will be gone. And the truth is, once human beings become extinct, the forests will recover, the oceans will replenish, and so on. So don't worry about the planet, actually. The struggle to avert catastrophic climate change is a struggle to protect our children and their children's lives. And therefore, irrespective of how difficult it is, we need to make sure we do everything possible to address this crisis. But in addressing it, the climate crisis, it's critically important that you as young people have to say that the way things operate in the world is abnormal. And you have to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. The level of inequality we have, the level of military expenditure that we see our governments doing, and many other injustices. You have to get uncomfortable with all of that rather than accepting it and accepting it as normal. You also have to be, as you grow up and when you're at the age that the laws allow you to do this, You should be engaged in, be comfortable when our leaders are not listening, to engage in peaceful protests, because peaceful protests are the only things that got our government and businesses to listen throughout history to address various injustices. But you also must be comfortable with taking leadership. And you must now be saying that if there's an NGO in your community, if there's a social movement in your community, you must say, we want young people's voice on these structures. So I want to encourage you to recognize, on the one hand, things are really bad. And let's be honest, we are running out of time. This decade, from 2020 to 2030, is probably the most important decade in the history of humanity. If we do not make big changes here, the scientists are telling us that we are on the road to irreversible, catastrophic climate change. And therefore, we have to act now. So I thought, rather than speak too much longer, I would conclude my message to you with a poem that I wrote during the lockdown. The poem is called, "We are all desperate to get back to normal, but should we?" Normal. What an average word. So uninspired, it's actually absurd. In a time when we have been forced to change our ways, to pause and isolate and dream of better days, that we'd yearn the world of yesteryear, a world so divided, so fragmented by fear. It's mind-boggling at best that we might just blow Mother Nature's test, longing for the same madness that put us in this global sadness of me first and screw you and buy 4 for the price of 2. Surely getting back to normal cannot be our aim after all the sacrifices, death, and pain. Yet this pandemic has brought us to our knees, cutting jobs and highlighting inequality. Our leaders are exposed and the broken systems they have imposed, and now obviously not making any sense. So why do we obsess and resist what needs to be? To end the end to these failed economic schemes and political machines that weaken and divide, leaving only the elite satisfied. No, we have to be better. Ourselves, we must for our kin, our children and their children, and the ones after them. Thankfully, our youth has far more motivation to take action and end the years of frustration by breaking down the walls we've created and the inequality that is so outdated. So now, what are you going to do? Let's hope it's something substantially new to help building post-corona a human existence that is far from over. Learning from our lessons, respecting all persons, especially our healthcare and essential workers, who were invisible to many of us before this pandemic, and never again, lest we forget what and who really matters, even when all hope scatters, because this tragedy surely must be our big opportunity to look beyond what has always been and build a world where we can all thrive in. Thank you. Finally, I just end by saying to all the young people that have participated in these inspirational activities around the world, you got to see yourselves as leaders. You got to see yourself as people who have taken, if not the first step, or one of the first steps. You got to do more. And I just leave you with this message. That the struggle to ensure that we have climate justice is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So in all that you do, pace yourself, have fun along the way. Do not let the Donald Trumps of the world take away your right to happiness and joy, and have fun while you do your work to secure your future and to secure the future of people all around the world. Thank you for all that you've done as part of this climate action project, and let's hope you will continue to do many, many more great things to ensure that one day we can say we can live in a world which is just, more equitable, and safe from climate disaster. Thank you. Shukran. Merci beaucoup. Muchas gracias.